You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, let's get after it. Presented by Betano, it's time for the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take. It's Nick Alberga and Anthony Stewart. What's going on, Stewie?
I'm doing well. How's everything with you on this fine Friday?
Dude, last night was a roller coaster, and we're going to get to that game, and they got a game against the Ducks coming up. Speaking of which, we got a special guest on today's show. So I'm going to read the read, and then we're going to get to him. The following interview is brought to you by our friends over at Battlegrounds Axe Storing. Unlock the ultimate birthday party team building event, or have a great date night with your significant other. To find a location and book an outing today, go to battlegrounds.com. That's BATL grounds.com. As mentioned, the Leafs and the Anaheim Ducks coming up on Saturday. How about a bit of preview with our friend Adam Henrique of the Anaheim Ducks? Rico, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much. Just enjoying the long road trip we're on.
How did last night go? Did Ridley Grigg pull any shit or what?
No, he did not. Fortunately for us, he missed a pretty good opportunity to get back within 1 or 2 goals there. So it worked out for us last night.
How's it for you coming back to the hometown? I remember for me, pretty much every time I played, I was playing for free. So is there a lot of tickets requests for tonight?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get everybody to get their own, but it never works. My family's actually been following us around on the trip on the train, so it's been kind of fun seeing them in Montreal and Ottawa, and then we'll have a lot of people in at the Toronto game, but we play in Buffalo too. Everybody usually just comes to Buffalo. It's a lot cheaper and easier to get tickets there.
I won't lie, I'm a bit guilty of that last year. Went to the game last year. It was a tough outing for the Anaheim Ducks. We'll say that. But Rico, I mean, how's the season going? How you feeling? Of course, March 8th getting closer and closer, and it's just been one of those years in a contract year, obviously.
Yeah, you know what? The year's been good. I've been happy with my game and more as of late in the last month or so. And then, yeah, it seems like every year people ask it, and my name comes up around trade deadline, but now with the expiring contract, it's, there's more to it, I guess. So that's been not new to deal with, but I guess there is more talk and what's going to happen. And then every year too, you don't really know when the trades are going to happen. Now we've seen 2 early trades, and that's kind of pushed things along and pushed the talk and the rumors of those things. So just trying to deal with that and keep playing and trying to keep focused on my game and making sure it's at a top level, whenever that may come.
Man, life's moving too fast. I did some research here, and Stewie, we'll get to you in a sec. Did some research, obviously 6 years since your last playoff game, 12 years since your crazy run with the New Jersey Devils. What would it mean to you to get back into a playoff setting?
Well, it would be special. I think it's, you go on that big run my first year and you think you're going to be in the playoffs every year. And then as a young player, you learn the business side of things pretty quickly, and things kind of go the other way. And it feels like been rebuilding ever since wherever I've been. So, the trade to Anaheim, we had a good run and got ourselves in, but fell short pretty quickly in the playoffs. So, that's the opportunity that every player wants. That's what we play for. And so, we just wait and see what happens and where things may fall for me. But just to have the opportunity to get back there would be pretty nice.
Well, that's one side of the coin. And the other one is possibly re-signing with Anaheim again. It's a good young team that's going to be up and coming. I'm looking at that D-line prospect pipeline there. It's going to be shored up probably for the next 10, 15 years. Is that something that you've possibly looked at? Is re-signing with Anaheim as a potential option?
Yeah, we've talked about it as a family. That we haven't had any actual conversations of anything as far as that nature goes yet, but that's something that we would certainly be open to, and it's when you look at it too, everybody's got a job to do. The GM's got a job to do, the coach's got a job to do, the players got a job to do. So, whether we get traded and end back up in Anaheim or sign before then, we just kind of have to wait and see. Most of that is out of my control. So it's kind of the waiting game right now. And you'd certainly love to be a fly on the wall with the GMs, but that's not for us right now. And that's not part of my job as of now. So.
Yeah, it must be such a fascinating feeling. Like, are you nervous? Are you anxious? You want to get this over with? Like, obviously lots happening in your life right now too.
Yeah. Well, it seems like everything happens at once and we're expecting another little one, March 3rd. So that kind of throws a wrinkle in our plans, but outside of that, we've kind of prepared as best we can as a family and for what we need to do. And it's, it's not something that's crept up on us. It's something all season that we've known about and is coming. So we've taken, most of the precautions that we can. And like I said, it's does the trade happen March 8th at 2:00 or does it happen tomorrow? Like, we don't know. So we just try to prepare and try to stay focused mentally and really just control what we can control. And that's kind of just how we take it day to day. Sometimes it's you think about it a little more and sometimes you try not to think about it at all.
I do not hesitate an opportunity to bring up Matt Nichol. How important has he been for your preparation for the season and playing, 82 games?
Well, he's been great. And for me too, I've been with Matty now for a handful of years. And just going to the gym, it's a place you want to go, and it's a ton of fun to be there. Over the years, you see so many guys coming in and new players and trying to take their game to the next level. So, and that was me when I first started too. So, he's been tremendous for me. I think the summer is always a lot of fun being there. And for me, the last two seasons too, with injuries, going to see Matty and getting his expertise on those things and making sure we correct the body, properly. And that does take time. And he's been a tremendous asset in my career and a big reason of why I've been able to play for a long time.
So, as mentioned, you guys are taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night. This is Leafs Morning Take, so we'll do our best to draw parallels. You just never know what happens, whether at the trade deadline or in the offseason with free agency. But the one thing people don't know about you, your father-in-law is Stumpy Thomas. What's that like?
Yeah, it's great. We have a lot of fun together. Spend a lot of time together, and especially in the offseason, me spending time in Toronto. So it's always fun. We chat hockey a lot and get golfing quite a bit and those sorts of things. So it's been awesome. He's again, another kind of asset to pick his brains at times when things are going on and whether they're going good or they're going bad for me on the ice. So try to take advantage of that. And then we have a lot of fun. It's been great seeing him become a grandpa and something that he loves a lot. And, they've helped out me a lot when I'm away and don't have to worry about things.
And lastly, Rico, I know you got to fly here, but the big topic of conversation in this market the last week, the Morgan Riley situation, would you have reacted the same way? Like, what did you make of that whole thing?
Yeah, I thought the reaction was fine and fair. Maybe, the cross check to the head and then the 5 games is kind of its own thing, but I think there rightfully so should have been a reaction. Whether it was too much or whatever, you can just argue on end, I guess, for that. So it's funny, all this happens on our Canadian road trip, and I've seen more talk about that than I've seen a lot of hockey talked about back in Anaheim all season. But I think it is what it is. Now we have to take advantage of him being out of the lineup for our game tomorrow.
True. Enrico, just call it preparation. You just never know what could happen between now and March 8th, even in the offseason, right? So appreciate your time. Enjoy the game tonight. That Matthews guy is playing pretty well right now.
Yeah. We'll have to shut him down somehow.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Anytime. That's Adam Henrique of the Anaheim Ducks. Imagine coming off and being that next team that Auston Matthews takes on and trying to defend that guy, dude. Like, we're going to get to that conversation, but holy crap.
It's amazing, right? And again, a game last night where you think they're dead in the water, just 3 shots just like that, and that just shows the capability that he has, and when he's determined and he's a man on a mission, he has the ability to put this team and put them on their back. So it was a great performance, but remember now it's coming up to game 60 to 80 where it's almost a different season. They're gonna need some other guys stepping up for sure.
I love how you talk about your 5 game increments. That is my favorite part about you. 82 game slate. There are 5 game increments, and I lose my mind over every waking loss. You do not. At the Leafs Nation 401, where you can subscribe on YouTube. Once again, thanks to Adam Henrique for dropping on before he hits the rink here for a skate. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast as well. Morgan Riley is going to have his appeal, I guess, today with Gary Bettman. I'm still trying to figure out why these things have to be in person. Like, he did his thing on Zoom. Like, it's a technology era. Why not just do it through Zoom and waste your, save your flight and your travel time to New York City? But they're going to get together. Maybe just your overall scope, Stu. I haven't had you on this week to talk about that, just everything that transpired and the response, the suspension, all that.
Well, it's funny. I don't think I've seen a country more divided or a province more divided on a situation like this, right? But I think we can all agree as players that, yes, there are some unwritten rules, and you can call it archaic. You can say we're all dinosaurs, but the players almost have to police themselves, right? And what you don't want to do is, yes, the game is of respect. You don't want to make a travesty of the game, and you don't want to be disrespectful to your opponents. Remember, it's a contact sport, so. Greg, when he came in, did that slap shot, he knew he was igniting a rivalry there, and he wanted to put the icing on the cake. And for me, after that puck went in the net, I think there was a good 5 seconds before Morgan Riley came and got him. He knew he was coming, right? If I did something like that, I know somebody's coming and there's going to be a response. So whether or not, I'm not going to argue that Riley meant to do it or not, he had a response to make. And I'm sure he's going to take the suspension in stride. But I think the one thing where I'm a little bit iffy on is, why are you going to throw the book at him when he's a first-time offender? He's a Lady Bing, not Lady Bing. What is it? What trophy is it that he's a candidate for? Where he doesn't have a lot of penalty minutes. He's not a repeat offender.
Yeah, Lady Bing.
I saw it as 2-3 games max. So I can understand the frustration on wanting to appeal it. For me, I can see 2 games. Again, my brother, I've never been suspended. My brother's been a guy that's done it. But you have to have a response for a certain situation like that too. So the one thing is, next time Ridley Gregg has an open net, I'm sure he's going to take his time to decide if he really wants to take a slap shot, and that's how you police the game.
And it's always interesting and important to get the perspective of players who actually play in this league, right now. We had Braden Shen on here earlier this week. He said it was the right response. Adam Henrique just said it was the right response. It shouldn't be a surprise that a vast majority, I guess, of the veterans in the league felt it was an appropriate response. I think we can all agree, don't cross-check him in the head. I mean, that goes without saying, but I wonder, and I mentioned this on yesterday's show, like, if Riley is appealing this, I wonder if he's got some intel that he might actually win this thing, because I'm with you. Right away it happens, I'm like, he's getting suspended 2 to 3 games. But then this conversation got overblown. Maybe it's the market, maybe it's Toronto, but he was going to get 10 plus games. They're going to throw the book at him, and then it lands at 5, one less than David Perron. I just wonder if, Gary Bettman looks back, he looks at the track record, the resume, everything that transpired a couple of years back with Jason Spezza and reducing that suspension. And I wonder if it's filtered through that Riley's going to get 1 game ticked off this thing. That's all I can think
I
of.
can see that. I can see that. And again, I'm not going to play an insider. I play one on TV, but I was hearing through the grapevine that, I think it was Shanahan that requested an in-person meeting, as he wanted to go in there and read the riot act back to the league.
Really?
Right, because they've sort of been on the receiving end of some of these suspensions, where it's like, when it comes to Toronto, they're sort of on the, they're tacking on a couple games to send a message to a Toronto team. So that's what I heard. I'm not sure. I'm not going to play an insider, and you're going to use this clip now, so
Probably.
I'm not going to try to butcher it. But they're well within the rights, right? If you look at this as, is this one of the worst suspensions of most egregious offenses this year? I don't think it's anywhere close. And I could see them understanding, saying, hey, you know what, we're going to give you 3 games, 4 games. But to be talking about 5+ and people talking about throwing him out of the league, giving him 10+ games, there was no injury. Yes, it was a revenge play, but he had time to protect himself. So, yes, I'd rather him drop his gloves and punch him in the face. But what if he knocked him out? We'd be talking about a whole different thing. So, as a player, I knew in certain markets or certain teams that I'm playing against, I had to act accordingly based on what the retribution was going to be. So if I'm playing against Toronto and they have Rosie and they have Colton Orr and they have these guys, I'm probably not doing anything out of line. But if it's a team where I know I can get away with it, I'm absolutely going to do it. And you saw last night, Delorier was out there having a field day. Yes, he had to answer to Benoit, but that was a walk in the park for him. So it comes down to policing the games, and there are some unwritten rules, and unless you played the game, it's really, really tough to understand.
I have so many questions from last night, and among them, like if you're gonna sign Ryan Reeves, like why isn't he playing against the Philadelphia Flyers out of all teams in this league, who are gonna bring it physically? But we're gonna get to that question. I want to get your breakdown of a video that we caught wind of during the broadcast yesterday in the first period, where the Leafs were dog shit and Philadelphia was playing their game, and it was William Nylander and Sheldon Keefe going at it a bit. What did you make of that whole thing?
It happens, right? And I think because we're in Toronto, we're going to be putting everything under the microscope. But the one thing I can tell you on most NHL teams, there is one or two guys, not necessarily the whipping boy, but where the coach can go in and air out his frustration and not really have it be a big deal. So, you're looking at Keefe. Could he get away with doing that with Matthews or Marner or Tavares? No, but you have to do it to a guy where you're sort of going to send a message to the rest of the team. So you're seeing Nylander there. He's giving it back to him, right? He's probably saying, yeah, man, I tried it. It didn't work. Yeah, get off my back. I'll fix my game. But what was the end result of that situation? Him going out and scoring the overtime winning goal. So Keefe, he pushed the right buttons. Look what happened. And that's the job of the coach. Sometimes you got to motivate some of these players. Sometimes you have to send a message. And, last night it worked in it being Nylander, but there's no way. And that's where I'm like, there's no way I'd want to coach this Leaf team. I've played for teams where we had one superstar and it was tough for the coach to say anything. I cannot imagine 4 or 5 guys that you got to manage that on a daily basis. So I think Keefe has been A+ in that department, pushing the buttons at the right time. And it seemed to work yesterday for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
These guys are fucking divas, dude. They're so
So
entitled.
would you be if you had $11 million paycheck July 1st? You would buy 2 cats, right? And
Probably.
then you'd build a place to live right upstairs. You'd be there every night. It'd be tough to show up for 82 games, right?
I don't buy it. Why doesn't Nathan McKinnon pull tantrums like that? Why
Those guys
doesn't
are cut from a different cloth. The
Okay,
McKinnons,
well,
the Crosbys, the McDavids. Those guys are born winners. Those guys are going to be going down as the Tom Brady's and the superstar guys that we talk about, the Mount Rushmore guys. Those guys are few and far between. They demand excellence. You talk about their training regimen off ice. They hold their teammates accountable, where if you're not a guy that's buying in, you're out. So those guys, it's tough. It's tough. Trust me, it's tough to deal with those type of guys.
11 and a half sheets a year, and a month into off that extension, he is already going with the head coach. And the only thing I read from that is like, buddy, I know I'm going to be here longer than you. The writing is on. I don't know. You've been monitoring Sheldon Keefe the last 2 months. This guy is going grayer and grayer by the day. He knows his days are numbered as a head coach. Like, that's why he does not give a fuck anymore. And I love it because these guys are so entitled and they think everything should just be given to them. And it's like, I don't know how you come out that way in the first period. It's like every game, it's this conversation. And I'll be honest, it just scares the shit out of me that they just paid this guy 8 years, $11.5 million, and he's pulling a stunt like that. Like, he's been such a passenger the last month.
Remember, we're talking about 5-game segments. So yes, his last couple
Yes,
5-game segments haven't been there. But
Okay.
remember why he got this deal, and that's why I sort of scratched my head at this. He didn't get this deal based on what he was doing this year and showing up and being the leading scorer. He's been the most consistent Leaf, I think, for the last 3-4 seasons. Most importantly, in the playoffs. So yes, there's going to be ups and downs. But I think the issue is with this group, there's 4 guys that are under the microscope. There's 4 superstars where other teams have 1 or 2. So yes, I think there's a little bit of conflict with power play and ice time, this and that. But the scrutiny is going to come with that contract. So yes, I think he can. He deserves to be better, and I think he will be better. But he's done it. He's shown he's been doing that. But that's been the William Nylander the last couple of years. He goes hot, he runs cold, and yes, sometimes he looks like he has a torn motivator cuff out there. But I think when push comes to shove, he's shown he can be a top flight NHL player, and I think he'll do it going into the playoffs when it matters most.
Hey, thank you to Mr. P-Mail Bacon in the chat. 6.9 this year, not 11.5. I stand corrected on that front. Brought to you by DoorDash.
Nice.
It is time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off, up to $10 in value, and 0 delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more When you download the DoorDash app, enter code NATION25. That's uppercase NATION25. 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada. Subject to change. Terms apply. The Auston Matthews show again. That team was dead to rights last night after the first period and a half. And then all this guy does, a natural Hatty in the second period. 12th career Hatty, 5th of the season. Sets a team record, 72nd career multi-goal game. Like, I don't know what else to say about Auston Matthews. He's just so good, so important, and I think has burst back into the Hart Trophy conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tweeted yesterday, it was a GIF of Justin Bieber doing the heart sign too. And I think and that shows why he should be in that conversation, where that team was in that game and how he came and brought them back into that matchup. And I saw a stat yesterday. I think he has 15 of his goals are when they were down 1 or 2 goals to get them back into the game. So it just shows he's showing up at the right time. It's not garbage time. It's not empty net goals. He's scoring big goals in highlight reel time. So when you think about it, I put him in the same boat as a Kucherov, McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, because he is stepping up and playing some big minutes and putting up some big points. So, and just to look at the broader scope of things, I believe now he is in the wheelhouse of Matt Sundin for most goals all time by a Toronto Maple Leaf. Matt Sundin was my hero. He was my hero. And I'm going back and looking at it, just his body of work. And, he was 33, 34 years old, and Matthews is doing this, 6-7 years younger. So I can't put into picture now where Matthews is going to be if he has that longevity and stays healthy. We might be talking Alex Ovechkin territory. So I think we're not really appreciating, because we just see it happen since he's come into the league, just consistently doing it. We don't have that appreciation for what type of goal scorer he is. And I know Mike Modano said easy, Stu, when I talked about the wrister being one of the best of all time. He is going to go down, I believe, as probably the best American goal scorer, if not goal scorer of all time in the National Hockey League.
That's probably why Mike Modano won't return my text to come on this show, because he knows he was incorrect. The case for Matthews so far is still 30 games remaining. Like, there's plenty of time. Nathan McKinnon hasn't been as good since the All-Star break. Nikita Kucherov has been incredible. Connor McDavid's been on a different planet. Leaf Nation 67 writes in, Matthews out 2 to 4 weeks with a back injury from carrying the team. That's a big thing for me, man. He has 25% of the Maple Leafs goals. And it's legitimate to think the Leafs could scratch and claw and get into the playoffs by 1 point, even with Auston Matthews scoring 70 goals. Just think about that. This guy is on pace for 71 goals. Like, it's absurd.
I know. And again, I've played with the Olli Jokinens, the Eric Stahls, the Kovalchuks, and those guys were like 35, 40 goal guys consistently. And we're talking to him sitting at 45 goals in February. I could not even imagine the swagger that he's walking around the league with, around the city. That is different type of territory. That's different type of superstars. So yes, we're in the land of superstars where there's 3 or 4 other guys, but he's on a planet himself. And that game solidifies what type of player he is. Yes, there was some questions a couple of years ago. Is he going to be able to score the big goals and this and that? He's showing that he's the real deal. And again, I'm not worried about this team making the playoffs, because if he has to score 75 or the last game, he's got to score 6 goals to get him in. I think he has that in his purview now, where he's now realizing, I am a leader. I can be a game changer. I can do what I need to do and want to do out there on a shift by shift basis. It just seems every shift he can turn it on, turn it off, coast, turn it on. He can do what he wants out there. And that's why he's a superstar. And I put him in that category of those 3 other 4 guys in the league.
Weirdly enough, that game reminded me a lot of that Columbus series in the bubble, and it should have, because John Tortorella was the head coach of the Jackets, but there was no time and space. Like, that was a picture perfect, I would say, first 25, 28 minutes of that game for the Philadelphia Flyers. And it was very reminiscent of what I think you're going to see in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's been the big thing with this Leafs team. Hasn't been goaltending, hasn't been defense. They can't score in the clutch. They can't score when there's no space out there. And to me, at the very least, and I know it's just 1 of 82, there's still 30 games before the playoffs, it showed me a little something. It showed me that they're able to rise up even when they don't have their best and win a hockey game. Like, that was a very least victory, though. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that they were up 3-1. And then all of a sudden, like, I get it. Auston Matthews is on pace for 71 goals. But, like, they were at a point where they were force-feeding Matthews for the first 5 minutes, including that power play early in the third period where it's like only this guy can score. It doesn't work that way. They were playing like a team up 7-1, and it was a 3-1 hockey game. And it gets back to the idea about killer instinct. It's the same conversation over and over in this market, Stewie.
Yeah, and killer instinct's not necessarily just coming in and outwilling your opponent. It's doing whatever it takes to win. It's not taking 2 penalties in the last 6-7 minutes of a third period game where you're winning. It's having the fundamentals in the D zone. It's getting pucks out. It's not having turnovers up the middle. It's on the power play, doing those fundamentals and not just converging on the puck 5 men deep. So those, when we talk about killer instinct, I think that's where the Leafs sort of lose a little bit of traction consistency. So they show them they can do it at times. But you're looking at those highlight reel goals that Matthews scored. Look what Philadelphia did. All they did was just ground and pound the run game, just got the puck deep, went to the net, shot, rebound, goal, shot, rebound,
Simple.
scramble, goal, point, right? And that's playoff hockey, right? So if that's your MO, that's how you beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. You just got to beat them up, go into the corners, play east, west, north, south, get it to the net. That's a pretty easy game plan. And remember, there's some more talented teams in that division that play that same game. The Florida Panthers, yes, they're extremely talented. They have Barkov, Reinhart, they have Kachuk, but they can play that ground and pound game. Same thing with the Boston Bruins. So if I'm Toronto, I got to figure out a way to defend that consistently, but I think that's just a buy-in. That has got to be that in your ilk. It's got to be one of your fundamentals of your system and your team culture. But it's tough. It's tough when you have the ability to get the puck to one guy, knowing that he can turn the game over. What are you going to do? Just like in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, pass it to Will. But I think it's tough to do that in the playoffs and be successful.
Yeah, not to get too philosophical, getting back to Matthews. It's just like we all watched, the majority of us, Alex Ovechkin. You played against him in his prime. Like, he's making him look like a chump. Like, Alex Ovechkin, every night this guy scored, and then some in his prime. But Matthews is popping Hatties like they're going out of style. Like, that's 5 hat tricks. He has 30 games remaining. I mean, 1/3 of his goal output this season has been via hat trick. Like, I really try to pause, because what I do in life, and I think most people do, they look to the future. You're looking at the future, looking at the future. Next thing you know, you're like 50 years old. Like, shit, I should have lived in the present. I've been trying my best this season specifically to just enjoy what this team has in Auston Matthews. Like, we're literally witnessing greatness. Like, there's no other way to phrase what Auston Matthews is doing, where he makes goal scoring look so easy.
Yeah, and he's scoring at will, and it's tough to beat goaltenders. They're so big now, to beat them clean, from 60, 70 feet out. And you're looking at those shots where the goaltender was. He was 4 or 5 feet outside the crease, cutting down any angle, and he still found a way to get it through the goaltender. So the way that he changes the direction, the way that he changes the angle, I think that needs to be studied and put in the Smithsonian Smithsonian Museum. But remember, going back to Matt Sundin, what was sort of the MO with him and what happened? He didn't have anybody to play with. And when you're now doing that, it's tough to put the team on your back consistently. So you got to find a way now for other guys to step up. And again, I think Marner can be that guy. He's, pretty decent right now. I think he's got 60 points in the 51 games that he's played, but you need more guys to do it, because in the playoffs, teams are very, very prepared. They do hours of video. We had Rico now. He had to go. He probably wasn't going to do practice. He's probably going to go watch an hour of video on how to stop Auston Matthews. Teams now are big, fast, strong, and they're so prepared. And trust me, there's going to be teams taking runs at Matthews, game 70 plus, and it's going to be tough for him to have that time and space where he's not going to be getting as many looks as he did last night. So it's an opportunity now for some of these other guys to step up. And again, I saw the tweets last night. I saw you tweeting through the game, and guys like Domi and Bertuzzi and Nyes, these guys got to consistently be secondary scoring threats, because they're going to be needed when push comes to shove.
I had a mutual, actually. Peter Burr said, you got to bring back that tweet from 3 weeks ago talking about the Leafs depth scoring. So I did. You want to hear the numbers? Since December 1st, Auston Matthews has 31 goals in 30 games. Bobby McMahon, 5-24. Domi, 5-31. Camp, 3-27. Nyes, 3-29. Holmberg, 2-19. Gregor, 2-30. And Tyler Bertuzzi, which we're about to talk about, 1-30. So it just tells me the core four doesn't score. They do not win hockey games, Stewie. So the same old issue with this club.
Yeah, and it's the market we're in. It's the market we're in, and that's the only way to sum up, the struggles of Tyler Bertuzzi. How do you go from, having the great year that he did last year with Detroit and Boston, being consistently in the playoffs, and being consistent in the playoffs, putting up some points, to now, being a dud, for lack of better words, this year. And again, it's tough. It's tough when you have the big four. You sort of naturally go down the order in the pecking order. But for this team to be consistent, you have to have that secondary scoring. Yes,
Mhm.
I'll bring back the term tertiary because Matthews is
Love it.
providing primary and secondary, but you have to have guys now stepping up. And I loved it. I loved it because I was a fourth line player, but I'd be on the second line power play, and I would be getting the third line and fourth line guys consistently where my talent could seep through, and I'd put up points. So if I'm Bertuzzi and I'm not necessarily getting all the best looks against the other team's top units, that's an opportunity for me now to step up. So how do you get him going? I'm not sure. We discussed maybe earlier. Does he have to sit up in the stands and watch a game, eat a hot dog or some popcorn to figure it out? But they need him. He's too good of a player. Same thing with Domi. Domi's been great dishing the puck and all that, but they were brought in here. They're paid $4 or $5 million to be consistent performers. If they're at 2.5, yeah, we'll let it slide. We'll let it slide like Mikheyev and Engvall, but they're paid big money on a team that's cash strapped with regards to cap. They have to perform and they have to do it consistently, and they're going to need them down the stretch, especially in the playoffs.
Let's hop into that conversation now. Brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and unbeatable pricing policy. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. So Tyler Bertuzzi, the numbers are scary. I just talked about them. A 19-game goalless drought. He has 1 goal in the last 30. A terrible ozone trip led to Konechny's tying goal against the Philadelphia Flyers on Thursday night. I mean, make no mistake about it, Bertuzzi is fighting it. Do you think it would be a wise decision or the right decision to maybe sit this guy for a game or two just for a bit of a reset? I'm sure you've been through that in your career.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because do you
Really?
want to be alienating a guy that you're going to need down the line, right? And when they brought him in, it was on a 1-year deal to see how he's going to do to potentially sign him to a 4-year, 5-year deal. So do you really want to close the door on that? And there's a pecking order of respect and what they can do with guys, but maybe one game. But the issue is now they take him out and they put somebody else in and they go -2, -3. Now the whole conversation narrative shifts. So I think for him, it's maybe just sitting down and going through the video on what he needs to do. He's been getting opportunities. How many open nets has he missed? How
A
many
lot.
goals have been called back? But for me, I remember going
One.
through scoreless droughts. And again, as I got later on in my career, I don't think I went through 19 or 20. I think it just comes down to practicing harder. And I tell my young kids now, you practice the way that you play. So, I say, why fourth line guys, usually when they get their breakaway, why they always score? Because they've been waiting 15, 25 games for that breakaway. And they're like, I'm not getting another one of these this year. So you have to have that desperation in practice, every single shot you're shooting to score. So I think he's just got to get back to the basics. But, when he was struggling before, what did he do? How did those pucks go in the net? He was standing in front of the net on that power play, tipping. So I think he's just got to go to the net a little bit more, get a little bit more dirty, crash the net, get involved, mix it up. And not wait for that perfect pass. So I think for him, he's got to simplify his game. He's had some turnovers. He's not skating as well as he did at the beginning of the year, but I think he's just got to simplify. Less is more at this point, especially when you're struggling.
I would do it. I think it was a bit of foreshadowing in that Philadelphia game. He played a season low 10.55. Again, this guy's making $5.5 million this season. And number one rule of hockey: respect your opponent. I get that. But you're playing the Anaheim Ducks. They're an inferior opponent. I think you have bigger problems if you can't beat the Anaheim Ducks on a Saturday night without Tyler Bertuzzi in your lineup. I think it's the perfect time to do it. Bit of a reset. I'd get him right back out there against St. Louis, in St. Louis coming up on Monday. But there's no question this guy is fighting it. And the problem, and you know this, you played the game at a really high level. It's not just offensively he's fighting it now. It's everywhere, man. The mistakes, D-zone, like everywhere. And it has the opportunity of spiraling out of control. And I think we're getting to that point because he is fighting it. Like 19 games. This guy, he's a 3-time 20-goal scorer, hit 30 once in his career. Like there's no question his confidence is shot. And I think it wouldn't be the worst idea to put him in the press box for a game.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. But remember, when you're at that $5 million mark, there's usually a process to benching a guy, right? I think you got to bump him down to the fourth line, play him there. Hey, you know what? We're going to put you with some less talented guys, and you're going to have to simplify your game. Give him 4 or 5 games there, see how it works, and then challenge his ice time, right? So hey, we're going to
Yeah.
put you at 8-9 minutes, and you're going to have to now do those fundamentals and do those little details on the D zone. Don't be minus, get pucks out, get to the net. And then as a last case resort, that's when you bench him. So again, yes, he's been struggling, but it's gone from, hey, Bertuzzi hasn't scored in a while to now we got to bench him because now you sit him and they lose to Anaheim. Now it's going to be a whole other headline, and we're going to be sitting here talking about this. And the reason why I believe Reeves was out last game is because McMahon got a hat trick the game before. You obviously can't sit him. So I would put him on the fourth line, let him stew there for a bit, work his way out of it, and then as a last case scenario, because this team is not going to be successful if Matthews has 5 goals in the first series, Marner's at 1 or 2, and then you have these other guys, these secondary guys at 0 goals, 1 assist. They need these guys to be successful. So alienate them in game, 55, I don't think is the case. You got to find a way to work them, have them work their way out of it. Last case resort, that's when you sit them.
I don't call it alienating. I call it accountability, which I think the Leafs are trying to instill the last 25 games. Like David Kampf got healthy scratch for a mistake. So what's any different? Like Bertuzzi isn't Auston Matthews where you give them the benefit of the doubt. Like you make a mistake. That was a terrible penalty. He had a terrible night. He was awful. And so it's accountability. That's all I look at it as.
Yeah. But then what if he's now in your office giving you the Sheldon Keefe talk? What if the roles are reversed?
Then I say, see you later. We'll put you on the first jet out of here. You're traded.
Again,
you haven't
in
done
a
anything
normal
for us.
market, yes, in a normal market that could work. But here, like I said, you do not want that to be the storyline, and that's probably why he's not scratched. The storyline.
He just doesn't strike me as a guy who would like come banging on Keefe's office door being like, oh my goodness, can't believe you benched me. It's like, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, buddy. I mean, I don't understand players come to Toronto and they forget how to play hockey. Like even Max Domi. I love Max Domi. I think he's a really good player, useful player. I don't know if it's going to work at center, long haul, the rest of the season. This guy leads the NHL in icings. Like he has to. Every time he has the puck, it's like a grenade. I don't know if it's the market, it's the pressure. It's just not the same player we've seen maybe a couple of years back, obviously.
Well, I'm not sure if you get this, but we talk about the Leafs, and I have people stopping me on the street asking me, "Hey, why did you say this?" Why? So I cannot imagine as a player, "Hey, what happened last game? Hey, what's going on?
True.
What's going on with the power play? You need to fix it." So it's this market where it's just a whole different world. But again, these guys are paid a lot of money. Yes, I understand that too, but that does affect them. Every single thing you do is under a microscope. When you go to the grocery store, when you're at the rink, when you're on the road, what is the Toronto Maple Leafs doing and what's going on? So it's tough. It's tough to deal with that pressure. And, I said I would always have a better career, I feel, if I played for a Winnipeg, a Calgary, or Toronto. I was stuck and, I went without 25 games without a goal, I believe. And the beat writers asking me, "Hey, what's your favorite food?" They don't even care about the game, right? So it comes with the territory, but to say it does not affect them, that's not true. So it's tough. It takes a special type of player, not just to come here, but be successful and deal with everything that comes to being the Toronto Maple Leaf. And that's why I said Freddie Anderson was probably one of the top Maple Leafs, because there was no controversy the whole time he was here. It was the only controversy was when he left. And hey, do they need to bring back Freddie Anderson? So I'll say that.
Who's really bought in, and I'm looking forward to this game on Saturday, the revenge look, Simone Benoit. Like that was a monster hit on Cam York, who I'm not sure return of the game. You talked about Delorier entering and then the instigator happening, but like Simone Benoit is now up to 4 fights as a Maple Leaf every night. Like the one thing I've noticed about him, and this does happen with defensemen, is like they'll have good moments, bad moments. He's been pretty consistent for like the last month and a half, where we're sitting here, Stewie, on February 16th, and I think it's safe to say the Leafs make the playoffs. Game 1, Simone Benoit is in that lineup, no?
I think so. But if I was him, I would find a number to lock in for 8 years where you're just going to continually just fly under the radar, right? Because remember, we were saying the same thing about Giordano. Oh, that he's amazing, blood
Gio
and
was
tears, he
older.
bleeds blue and white. Oh, Scott Tibbins, he's the second coming, right? And now look how the narrative has changed in a short time. So he's one of those guys where I think because of his cap hit and zero expectations, yes, he's come in and done a great job. So I don't know if that earns him a ticket off the island at $2 million somewhere else, but if I'm him, again, he's just quietly going about his business, playing solid defensive hockey, playing physical, drawing the ire of the other team's opposition, and he steps up when needed to be. So my question is, and my concern, how do you have to go to the market to get a guy at 850 to come and play that way? How have you not drafted and developed and had an impact player in the last 6-7 years to do that? Right. So for me,
Wait. Do you know who the previous GM of this team was? The calculator guy?
Yeah, okay. But how
He
have you not? How do you not have a guy like that? How do you not have 3 guys like that on the farm ready to go for you right now? That's my concern.
Actually, don't they have that kid? I don't know if they drafted him this year, but that kid who hammered Ronnie Turvinen in the kids in the prospects camp over the summer.
Yeah,
Isn't he
but
a
it's
big
different just
hitter?
to come up and run around. But he's been underrated defensively.
Yeah,
He's not getting beat out of the corner. He's a poor man's Radko Gudas, right? So again, so
true.
for me, I'm like, how do you not have those guys ready and willing to step up for the last 2, 3 years within your system? But again, if I'm them, you lock him in because a lot of those nights you don't notice him, and as a defenseman, you don't notice him because he just does those fundamentals and keeps it simple, and it's working for him. I always say I love playing with a Jason Cullimore because game 1 or game 82, he played the exact same way.
Love his passion. He's been such a pleasant story this year. He really, really has. And I think in a dire need of somebody stepping up on that blue line, it's been Simone Benoit of all players. Nobody expected that when they signed him as sort of a depth defenseman back in September. I thought Ilya Samsonov had a really good night too. Like that's the underrated part of the victory, a 4-3 win here against Philadelphia Flyers in OT, was Samsonov making 29 saves. He's 6-2 since being put on waivers. But I thought he was a big reason why they won that game. Again, it was not pretty. You need to scratch and claw sometimes. But Samsonov in this story has been pretty epic the last month and a half, hasn't it?
Yeah, he seems really square to the puck. He's not panicking, and the MO was, sort of flops around in his crease. But that reset going down to the minors, I don't think he played a game. It was just hitting a
No,
reset button, maybe watching some videos, or maybe just, hey, we're gonna give you a week off away from the rink. That can work wonders. So, maybe it'll work with our good friend Jack Campbell out in the West there too.
probably
But
not.
I think the thing was that I think they had a conversation with them saying, we need you. We need you, right? Joseph Wall was playing some great hockey, but I don't think he got over the hump where he was the bona fide number one. So him going down a reset was, hey, you're going to come back and you're going to have the opportunity to be the guy. So some goaltenders do better than others with that competition. I think when he doesn't have that competition, he plays better. But good for him in coming in and figuring it out. He had some decent years with the Washington Capitals. He is a capable goalie. Is he a bona fide 1A? I think it's still yet to see, but he's been playing great hockey, and he's one of the main reasons why the Leafs have had some success as of late.
Wendy's is letting you win real food with your fantasy teams this year in Daily Faceoff. For those of you who smoke the competition, Wendy's is rewarding you with weekly prizes that will have you winning despite your lack of team building skills. Download the Wendy's app and score yourself 150 bonus reward points on your first order and grab a sweet victory from the mouth-watering jaws of defeat, along with some fresh, never frozen beef. Sign up to play Daily Faceoff to win weekly prizes like the spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's and the Wendy's app. So coming up on Saturday, Stewie, it's 3 of 3 at home before a 4-game road trip, I believe, for the Maple Leafs. They're hosting the Anaheim Ducks. We had Adam Henrique on the podcast a bit earlier on. The Ducks coming off a convincing 5-1 victory against the Ottawa Senators on Thursday night. Inferior opponent. We know how these go, but the Leafs have to take care of business here. Plain and simple, win this hockey game and move on business.
Yeah, and if I'm Matthews, I'm giving him the night off where, again, I'm not playing him 24, 25 minutes. The other guy's got to step up. So if I'm Keefe, I'm maybe giving that second line power play a little bit more than the 30, 40 seconds that they usually get. I'm giving some of the depth guys an opportunity to show what they can do right now at this point in the season. Yes, you need wins. I don't really think they're in fear of not missing the playoffs. You got to give some guys an opportunity to be consistent and show what they can do, because you can't be a one-line team, a 3 defenseman and 1 goalie team to have success in the playoffs. You need everybody. So I want to see Nick Robertson out there getting involved. I want to see McMahon. I want to see some of these other guys. I want to see Reeves back in there throwing the body as well, giving some guys an opportunity. These are these games, but you're looking at the rest of February. You got Vegas twice, you got Colorado, you got Boston twice, you got the Rangers. So they're not out of the woodwork yet. I think finishing with a strong February will set them up for the rest of the year. But these games now that are quote unquote scheduled wins, you got to get more guys involved, because what you don't want your top guys exhausted and having to play consistently 24-5 minutes. I understand that they had to do that yesterday to get the W, but you need 4 lines. You need a 60 going consistently.
Dude, this is wild. So the last time the Leafs played Anaheim was January 3rd. If you recall, they started off 2024 in a bit of a heater. Auston Matthews, his 30th goal of the season, won it in OT. He has 45 now. He scored 15 goals in that time frame. Can you guess how many goals Tyler Bertuzzi has since then?
No way.
Yeah, dude.
I was going to try to Google it real quick, but you caught me. So again, thanks for the answer on that. But again, it's the market, but we can't write him off. We can't write him off because, again, it's going to be tough to sign other free agents for that money coming in, knowing if he doesn't have success. You have to find a way to get him going. And yes, I can understand the one game in the press box, but find a way to get him going. And Vic on the line there. So maybe you put him with Auston Matthews. It seems everything that he touches turns to gold. You got to find a way, as opposed to just saying, hey, you know what, we're going to bury him and get someone else in there.
Stukat, I've been on the record since day one with Tyler Bertuzzi. I mean, to an extent, I know I'm giving him some heat. I do not care what he does in the regular season. If Bertuzzi comes out and they go on a lengthy run and he scores 5 to 9 goals or whatever it is, and he contributes and he adds some depth, then I think it's a win. It's a good signing. I really do feel like the Leafs added some of these guys being truly cognizant of what it's like to play like in the Stanley Cup playoffs, what it's like to be there, and guys who can help put them over the top. So I'm reserving complete judgment. I know, again, I'm giving him some heat right now. He just hasn't been good in my world. But again, if Bertuzzi comes out there, does his thing in the playoffs, I consider it a win, and I'd look at extending the guy. Like, I want to see him in a playoff setting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you look at Tampa Bay, who's gone on extended runs the last couple of years, and the Corey Perrys and the Pat Maroons. Bertuzzi could be that guy. He could be that depth guy that comes in and takes over a series, whether it's physically or scoring those big goals or coming up with the big hit, right? He's a feisty guy. He gets involved physically. But for me, I'm thinking of that game, the goal that scored in Game 7. It's an ugly goal going off a guy's leg or going off their sideburns. I think he's that type of guy. So again, yes, you want to have some success in the playoffs, but guys like that, I think, like you said, you have to reserve judgment, true judgment, until after a playoff series.
So it'll be 3 of 5. Morgan Riley not in the lineup. Again, the statistics, and it's very leafy, do not make sense. They're 16-2-2 now, I believe, or something along those lines without Riley in the lineup since last year, which is insane to me. It could even be 16-2-1, but they're 35-15-5 all time without Morgan Riley. Can you make sense of that for me?
So you're saying you need to trade him? Is that the headline?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm wearing my shirt.
No,
today.
but again, he is such a big piece, and when he's not in the lineup, there is an urgency and almost a panic saying we have to step up and focus on those details because we do not have our top star defenseman to bail us out of the situation. And say what you want, yes, he's putting up a lot of points and here and there, but he plays a pretty sound defensive game where he does the fundamentals really, really good. He skates really well. He gets pucks out. So when you're missing that huge element in your lineup, you need other guys to step up, and it's almost is a panic mode when you're missing those guys because you don't have a legitimate number 2 or a legitimate number 3 defenseman. You have to do it by committee. So I think there's attention to detail. So I think the key is once he's in there, everybody having that same urgency that when he's out.
16-2-1 is the record. That's fair. But producer Vic in all caps here in the chat, fuck play with that urgency when he's there. Fair enough. Producer Vic bringing the heat. We got to get him on the show. We will get him on at some point. But looking forward to this one against Anaheim. It's an inferior opponent. Just be ready to play. Again, the Ducks, as Rico mentioned, have had a long, grueling road trip. The Leafs, you would have to think, feeling better about life. I know watching that game on Thursday, it was quite clear a couple guys still battling something. John Tavares hunched over. Nylander, Marner got cooking as the game went on. Got to take care of business because they know what's looming. You just mentioned all the big-time opponents. Starts on Monday with a family day matinee affair, 1 Eastern start against St. Louis. So we'll see what's in store for the Maple Leafs. The Betano Wrap-Up presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now. 19+. Please play responsibly. Major announcement. Betano is the official partner of Copa America 2024, taking the beautiful game to new heights in the Americas. Join Betano on their journey of passion, unity, and unforgettable football moments. You got any bets you like for that game against Anaheim? I think I'm going to take Matthews to score again. How about that?
Yeah, I'm taking that for sure. Is it 0.5 goals? If it's 1.5 the line, I'm taking the over. He just seems like he's not slowing down. And again, just the casualness of those 3 goals. He's coming back through the neutral zone. Oh, okay, I'll just turn up here. Pucks on my stick, quick release. So he just seems like he's gearing up for a good 15 goals in his next 10 games. So if there's a sure bet, it's Auston Matthews scoring a goal, or I think he wants to continue the streak. Whatever the over is on shots, I'm hammering that. All in, $6.
Oh, $6 whole. I'll sniff around on the over in that game. I know it was on the over yesterday. It took a while to get there. I'm like, holy shit, as I placed that bet. And then it was like halfway through and it was like a 1-0 game. I'm like, man, I'm an idiot. But then the Leafs started playing Leafs hockey and Philadelphia unraveled a bit. So it was great to see. And obviously the overhit over 6.5 in that game. So I'd probably look at the Leafs puck line in that game against the Anaheim Ducks. It's a Saturday night. That's probably why I'm placing that bet. I think the Leafs will get up for that game as they get ready for a road trip and maybe the pending return of Joseph Woll as well. So Stewie, excellent job today, buddy. We'll talk soon.
It's great. And shout out to Adam Henrique. If he's looking in a Leaf uniform sooner than later, they're going to be a lot better than they are today. I'll tell you that.
You see his face, and I'm like, just preparing you for what's to come. You just never know. And I'm trying to draw ties. Of course, his father-in-law, Steve Thomas, played for the Anaheim Ducks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, yeah, thank you to Rico for dropping by. Monday is going to be a big show as well. Again, the 1 Eastern start time against St. Louis to start off that road trip. Jay Rosehill is going to be beachside. I believe he's arrived in Cancun, so we're going to get him on. And we have Dean Evison, former Minnesota Wild head coach, dropping by the program on Monday as well. So jam-packed Monday edition. Many thanks to Anthony Stewart, producer Vic, everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk on Monday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.